Hey guys, it's Amelia, but not the pilot, just Amelia. So as promised, I will be starting the acotar series. I'm about to start book 1 today, and I'm doing it as a book club with some of my friends because I talked them into it by describing it as fairy porn. So I'm excited, they're excited, we're gonna have a wild time. If you haven't saw, I previously read the other sarahjmaas series, Throne of Glass, and I pretty much hated the whole thing. So I'm not super pumped for this. I don't really like her writing style. I think the characters are feminist, but then all their goal is to just have sex all the time, which is fine, but not for me. So we'll see how this goes. I don't think I'm gonna like it, but I'm gonna read it anyway, and I'm gonna have a good time. If it's not clear, this whole video series is going to have lots of spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled for the series, just stop watching. Just stop. First, I'm gonna give you some of my predictions about what's gonna happen in the series and like what I know happens already, and then I'll check in with you like once a week with like where I'm at in the book series. So let's get into it. So all I know about this series is from TikTok. I've watched multiple acotar, the TikToks of this like one husband, like she's making her husband listen to the audiobook, and he's always like, oh. So I will also be reading the audiobook or listening to it, which I think will make me even more uncomfortable, so that'll be fun. And then the only other things I know about it is described as fairy porn, and that there are very graphic sex scenes, which I don't think I'm gonna like. Her last sex scene in one of the other books I thought was just funny, so we'll see how these go. All I really know is that the main character's name is feyre, and she is captured and kept in a cave for a bit. And then some of her love interests include Tamlin, who I think is bad and we don't like. And I think he's Irish, but the only reason I think that is because I was watching this other TikTok dude do cosplay of him, and that dude is Irish. He looks like this. And then the other dude's name is Rhysand, also known as Rhys. All the spellings of the names are weird. And I think Rhysand is the end game man. And I think he has wings, and I think the wing length equals dick size. And that's pretty much all I know about this. And there's something about a night court, and that's all I know. Let's go read. Okay, so I have some choice words about this book series already. I listened to the audiobook yesterday for, I think it was about 4 hours, which is chapters 1 through 11, which is what our schedule is for my book club. We're supposed to be reading like 10 chapters a week. So I listened to all of them in one sitting. I have so many thoughts already. First off, I want to point out I forgot to mention that she's an artist. How could I forget? This is one of the things that I think is really funny and people make fun of all the time, it seems like. I knew this before I started reading it, and then when I started, I forgot to mention it before. She has a paint set, and apparently she paints all the time, but the way they describe painting in the book is like, clearly the author has never touched paint in her entire life, which is just so funny. Like, I was an art major, and so like, maybe I have more knowledge about this than most people, but I feel like it's pretty obvious that it's just like, this author has no idea what she's talking about. And she's just like, feyre has like red, yellow, and blue paint, and she's making all these pretty little paintings, and then the pretty little paintings sound like they're like little kid drawings of like fire, and like little kid drawing of like a flower. Iconic. All I can say is this book is really entertaining already. I have problems yet again with the characters. I think that sarahjmaas's characters are so terribly annoying and self-centered and like ridiculous. Like, I don't know, they're so like, oh, woe is me, like pity me, and I just hate that. I hate it so much. I also don't understand why she always makes characters, like her main character is always like a pick-me girl, but like she's tough and she could fight for herself, so she's a feminist. But then all the other like side characters are male and hot and take care of her. Besides, like, there's always gonna be like 1 or 2 female characters that are like the absolute worst, who are like so prissy and like mean and like obsessed with their looks and stuff, and I just can't stand it. hate this book. So far, all that's happened is we got the whole, like, backstory family dynamic set up. And then she has been taken into the fairy world with Tamlin and is, like, hanging out at Tamlin's house. So we'll get to that in a bit. But I want to talk about the family dynamic in the first place, because I have a big problem with this. I feel like it's such poor writing, the way she's, like, telling us everything instead of showing it to us makes all the characters super shallow and flat. For example, she is, like, essentially telling us that Feyre is the breadwinner. Feyre is the only one that's tough enough to cut it in this world. Feyre is the one who's bringing all the food, all the money into the household, and the other 3 people in her household are, like, terrible and do nothing. She's also the youngest, which doesn't make sense to me in a dynamic situation. Like, I think it could make sense if she had written it differently, but I feel like the characters' wants and needs don't add up to not helping their youngest sister and caring for the younger sister. I, as an older sister, do not understand this. It doesn't make sense. I'm sure there's probably some families out there that are maybe slightly like this, but I don't think these characters' wants add up to this. For example, the mom out of the picture, classic young adult novel. And it sounds like they were previously quite rich. They used to live in, like, a mansion type of thing, but now they're extremely poor and Feyre is the only person doing anything. That doesn't make any sense. They're like starving, but their wants are still really superficial, and that doesn't make sense, but okay. And her dad is supposed to be sort of distant and disconnected and, like, incapable of doing anything, which is fine, and I could totally, like, see that happening. But instead of showing us that, sarahjmaas is, like, telling us it, and it's not as impactful, where I feel like it'd be more interesting if it was written like, oh, like, the dad just sits there all day and he's, like, completely zoned out because he's so sad and devastated or something like that, and then the 3 sisters are, like, taking care of him and it's sad and they're, like, angry with him, but they're not going to show that to his face. Maybe every once in a while they snap at him, but then they feel really bad about it again. Like, something like that. Like, that would be so much more dynamic. Instead, it's just like, dad sucks because he, like, hurt his leg and he's just such a pushover. And then he's just, like, sitting there in every interaction and he just doesn't do anything, and it's just weird. Like, why is he there? He's adding nothing. Meanwhile, the 2 sisters, I also don't understand. They are both older sisters, but they're not taking care of their youngest sister. I don't understand why the youngest sister is taking care of everybody, because the older sisters are obviously capable of doing it. They're just choosing not to, and instead they're doing nothing all day. And maybe sarahjmaas is trying to go with the concept of, like, oh, the older sisters, like, were used to living in the mansion and they had more experience with that, so that's why they're very vain and they are still stuck in their ways that way. But that's not, like, pushed enough in the writing. They're not described as being that over the top. The one sister, Nesta, is, but then again, she's also cutting wood and then being mean to the dad. I don't know why she's being mean to the dad. And then the other sister is just sort of there and she doesn't do anything. And she's not really mean, but she's not nice either. And I don't understand this family dynamic. It doesn't make sense to me. And it just frustrates me so much because it could have been well written, but it's not. And that's my hot take. So we'll see what my book club says. I think they're probably gonna like it because I feel like most people like these book series, and I don't know why, but I just can't stand this writing. It makes no sense to me. So all the characters piss me off. I don't like any of them. They're all really annoying. And now what's happened is Feyre killed a wolf and a deer and then brought it to the market and sold it to this random lady who was very intense, and I think the lady will come back later on. I'm so positive. Another thing I know is that Nesta, I think, also ends up in the Night Court, because that name sounds really familiar to me, and I feel like I remember people, like, making cosplays of it on TikTok and stuff. So I'm sure we'll see more of Nesta later. Now, Tamlin came as a jaguar something animal, and he, like, kidnapped her and took her back to Fairyland, Now we got Lucian and Tamlin. It's giving very Cinderella. It's also giving Beauty and the Beast. Like, Feyre was Cinderella with the stepsisters and the dad. That's what that vibe was, right? Now she's being kept in this castle against her will. It's very Beauty and the Beast vibes. And I'm pretty positive she ends up falling in love with Tamlin. But I also know that he sucks. But even as I'm reading this, I'm not in love with Tamlin. Like, he is sort of annoying from the beginning. He doesn't tell her what's going on. He is just keeping her there, but he's like, I won't kill you. I'm gonna stay true to my word. Which is like, great, okay, whatever. But then he's like very standoffish and mean to her. And like, obviously she's also mean to him, but like, I don't understand why she doesn't just run away. But then she's like, oh, I can't run away. They told me not to. Either run away or don't, girl. Like, why are you being such a pushover? Like, oh, just because your captors told you not to run away, you're not gonna run away? Like, I don't understand. She's clearly capable of killing things, and that she could definitely find a knife or something. They had dinner together, which was fine. Pretty weird. I noticed that sarahjmaas borrowed from her Throne of Glass series with the, like, invisible hands thing. Like, holding Feyre in the chair with invisible hands and, like, forcing her to eat. Like, okay. Sort of strange, but alright. But the invisible hands thing, I think, will definitely come back later parts of this relationship, I'm assuming. Because that was also in, like, Dorian's relationship powers from Throne of Glass. Spoiler alert for Throne of Glass, I guess. And then the other sort of interesting thing, I guess, that happened was when she went on a horseback ride with Lucian and the bog came, or whatever it was called, which I think is also a creature that was in Throne of Glass, which gave me really heavy Dementor vibes, which was like fun, spooky, ooh, drama, but also at the same time sort of boring. That happened, and then there was this weird shape-shifting animal that looked like her dad, and she tried to run away, which I was like, Feyre, you're actually an idiot if you thought that was your dad. Why would he be here? Like, I don't... And then why would he, like, run away from you instead of, like, hugging you in the garden? Anyway, and then Tamlin was pretty much like, you idiot, don't run away. And I was like, exactly, Tamlin, that's what I'm saying. I'm not super excited about this series, but that's what's going on so far. I'll check in with you guys after my book club meeting and see what my book club people have to say. And then I'll follow up with the next chapters. See you then. An update on acotar. So I had my first and second book club thing already, and I'm excited to announce that both the people I'm reading with also hate this book series. So we're just spending every book club session ranting about why the series makes no sense and the writing is bad. Which is honestly a lot of fun. Let's see if I can remember what just happened in the section I just read. So they went to 2 of those festivals, I think, in this chapter section. Anyway, she's going to these festivals, and then Tamlin's just getting really horny and then mating with people, and she almost got in the way, but he bit her, which was weird and I didn't like. So then another one happened, and I'm pretty positive she met Rhysand at it. There's that dark, mysterious man who ran into her, and I'm so positive that's Rhysand, and I'm positive he's from North Night Court, right? I'm assuming. She got her sight, which I thought was absolutely wild. I love that they're going on these weird little, like, pseudo dates now, but they, like, still hate each other. And they went swimming naked, ? Which was very bizarre. And then suddenly they're having this picnic in the woods, and he's like, I'll let you see, like, fairies see if I could kiss your eyes. And she's like, go for it. And then suddenly she could see sounds or something. And she's like, wow, everything's crazy. And then she passes out. That was weird. But then I love the fact that now she gets back to the manor house and she realizes there's people there. And I saw this TikTok the other day talking about how earlier on she's sneaking around the castle manor house, and you know that there's people everywhere. So she's like being all sneaky, but there's just like people wandering the halls being like, what is this fool doing? And I love that. Still, nothing is really happening.
I don't care about any of the characters still, and I still don't like Tamlin, so I don't really understand the vibe. My predictions for the future is that Aelin, that's not her name, that's the other book, feyre and Tamlin are going to date. There was something about, like, a cave, talking about, like, when you're chosen during the mating thing, you get taken to a cave, so I think she gets kidnapped and taken to the cave and, like, held hostage there. And I don't think I'm gonna like that. I'm not really into that. Don't like it. Oh, how could I forget the part about her reading? No one told me that Feyre is literally Leah Michelle. I knew there was a reason I didn't like this book series. Feyre doesn't know how to read. That was a weird, random bit of information that had nothing to do with the plot. I don't understand why it happened, and then they completely forgot about it and moved on. My biggest problem with sarahjmaas's books consistently is that there's no plot. And I was thinking about this yesterday. These books to me were described on TikTok, they were described to me as fairy porn. And so I feel like maybe I'm expecting too much from them because I'm expecting a plot, but maybe there shouldn't be plot because it's just porn. I don't know. That's just a thought. But my problem is that, like, none of the characters have wants. Tamlin, I guess, has a want. Like, he wants Feyre, and so all his decisions are being made by that. This is what I mean by a want. If you're writing a book or a TV show or something like that, when you're writing the characters, you have to give them something they want, and that is what makes the entire story. Because you're starting at point A, you want something, and you go for it, and that's how you get a story arc, because then you get to the climax, and you've achieved it, and then you have to make a new goal. Things like, okay, that's just, like, how writing works. For example, Moana wants to go on the ocean. She goes on the ocean and starts being a boat person, but then realizes that she has a new want, which is to get the green orb thing and give it back to the Earth Lady. That was a bad explanation. Feyre doesn't have a want. Arguably, I don't know what she wants. It's unclear. At one point, she wanted her parents and family to be safe, and she keeps saying that's what she wants, but then she'll just be like, oh, I really need to, like, go make sure my family's okay. And then Tamlin's just like, oh yeah, they're fine. And then she's like, oh, okay, great, cool. And then she just moves on. And she does that every chapter. It's driving me nuts. But she has no want. Literally no want. Like, she's just chilling there. There's no goals. She wanted to learn how to read. I don't really know why. And then now she sort of gave up on that, and now she's like, I want to be able to see like a fairy, and then he immediately gives it to her. So she's just immediately getting those gratifications, which is terrible to read as a reader, because there's no arc. It's just flat. Because she wants something and she gets it, and then we move on, and there's no, like, way to go forward. There's no future. Where is this going? I never have any idea where the plots, or there's no plot, where these books are going by sarahjmaas. I have no idea where it's going, which is why I read them, because I'm like, where is this going? I don't know, there's no plot, so we'll find out, I guess, together. My predictions for the future of this book: something needs to happen, so I'm assuming a new character will be introduced soon, or some sort of plot twist thing that makes things actually occur, because nothing is happening. I'm sort of predicting that they mentioned a cave before as part of, like, the ritual mating thing, which was weird and I didn't like, and I'm very positive I remember a spoiler of her, like, being in a cave, being kidnapped by someone and, like, held there. So maybe that is gonna happen soon? Don't know. All I know is Tamlin's bad, so something is gonna happen soon. Maybe he just, like, kicks her out, and then she goes and hangs out with Rhysand? I don't know, besties, so I guess I'll see you after I read the next section. Another day, another acotar update. Boy, do I hate this book series. Guys, I really don't know at this point if I'm going to make it to book 2. Because it's that bad. There's finally plot happening. I'm excited about that. We did my book club meeting already, so I'm also going to share some of their thoughts on this series. There's finally some plot happening, which is exciting, but the plot makes no sense. I feel like almost every chapter feels like a completely different book series. There's just a random info dump, and then, like, suddenly she's fighting a worm, which reminded me of this from SpongeBob, right? That's what I was picturing. I don't know if that's what you were picturing. Like, what is happening anymore? I don't know. So, she and Tamlin have sex. That's great. Love that for them. Didn't really like this part. I don't really like the word sheath or the word lovemaking. Gives me the ick. Not really enjoying it. I love the fact that they have their little time and then the next day he's like, you gotta leave. Like, what? Classic one night stand Tamlin. Like, I don't... Like, tell me it wasn't a one night stand. I don't think he likes her. I really don't. He's been a red flag from the beginning, and I don't think he likes her back. But anyway, he sends her away. Love that he says, love you, and then she doesn't. Also very funny. I also love that apparently all they needed was for her to say love you back to him, and then the curse would be broken and all that stuff. And so now they're blaming her, and they're mad at her that she didn't do that. But how could she know if they didn't tell her anything? So she gets back home, and they give her a bunch of jewelry and dress her up all fancy, and she has this weird backstory that she was with the aunt. And this is where my favorite part in the entire book happens. And I know this is going to stay my favorite part, because I literally cackled out loud when I read this part. When she gets home, and her sisters are all like, oh my god, I'm so glad you're back. And they're all happy now because they're rich again and they're living in a fancy house and they're pretending like nothing ever went bad. Whatever. And then the one sister goes, we wrote you all these letters. Why didn't you respond? But she can't read. So how is she supposed to read the letters? You don't know your own sister can't read? Girl, what? I loved that moment. So funny. And then literally on the next page, they're asking Feyre, like, what she did when they were, like, when she was at the aunt's house, this, like, fake aunt. And Feyre just makes up this story, and she goes, oh yeah, I read to her every day. And then I also, like, sewed and cleaned, and I was like, that's so funny. Like, she's just blatantly lying to them, being like, yeah, do you remember when I can't read? I read to her every day. Like, it's so funny. Ah! So that happens, right? And then she goes all the way back into fairyland. Super fun. I finally looked at a map of this book fantasy world and realized that it's literally just the UK, which I think is really funny because then that means that Rhysand lives in the Highlands of Scotland. So now I'm picturing him having this like heavy Scottish accent, which makes the books so much more funny. So good. And so now she goes all the way back up into fairyland and she gets to the spring court house, whatever, and like nobody's there except for her maid lady. Great, okay. And then the maid lady is like, you idiot, you ruined everything. And I was like, whoa, slow down. That's a lot you're dumping on her. She's an idiot. Like, I don't know why you think she would have realized that. She goes up to I don't know. I'm still confused where this is. Somewhere under the mountains. I think it's up in the north. I don't really know. And now she finally meets Queen Amarantha, which we love bad fantasy names. Why? It's just a fantasy Samantha, and I just think that's so funny. So my girl Amarantha is like, yo, let's do some riddles and trials, and meanwhile Tamlin is just like chilling and pretending he doesn't know her, and we find out that the queen murdered the girl that when Feyre gave a fake name. It's a little scary. Okay. And then another great part I loved is when they're trying to get Feyre's name out of her and she's like not telling them for some reason. I don't understand why this part happened because none of the other fairy things apply and it didn't really seem like they needed to know her name. There's no like value to it. They just wanted to know her name and she wouldn't tell them until they like tortured people. I just thought that was so funny. And then she's like, don't torture them, my name's Feyre. And they're like, great. And then they just move on. Why? Also, the amount of information they dumped on us in those couple chapters, like, why'd we get an entire backstory, like, literally in one page? I was like, that's a lot of information. That was very interesting. And instead you give us it in, like, 2 pages. What's going on here? I also love Queen Amarantha's got this, like, eye thing. And the eyeball on her finger is, like, her sister's murderer, lover, or something like that, but she also took out Lucian's eye. or yeah, him. I don't know what's going on, man. This book has too much going on. It also makes no sense. I don't know why I'm trying to make sense of it. Oh, and then she gives her these 3 trials to prove her love, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't really paying that much attention to it anymore because I was like, this makes no sense. Or she has to figure out the riddle. The answer to the riddle is so obviously love, and she doesn't figure it out because she's an idiot. So that was funny. And now she has to do the trials. And the first trial is trial by worm. Amazing. We love it. I cannot wait to find out what the next 2 trials are. I have no idea where this is heading. The final scene that I finished off with, she just did the worm trial and she won, which was very Hunger Games-esque. She, like, threw a spear or something at the queen's head when she was done. Like, okay, feyre showing off. And then she has, like, a bone sticking through her arm, which is quite gory and graphic, to be quite honest. And it's, like, festering, and she's in this cell, which sucks. And so Rhysand finally comes in and is like, yo, I'll heal you if you make a deal with me, and you spend 2 weeks out of a year with me as whatever I want. And of course she agrees. Like, of course. She loves her Stockholm Syndrome. Like, she's definitely into that. You know it. Like, immediately fell for Tamlin. She's gonna fall for Rhysand, I know. I know she's ending up with Rhysand. That was one of the spoilers I knew. But I clearly see it now. It's so clear. She's gonna have to spend 2 weeks with him. He's gonna, like, immediately call in this favor. And then she's gonna fall in love with him and then enjoy spending time with him and not want to leave. So now I'm gonna go finish the book this week. So that's fun. I really don't know what else is gonna happen. I'm assuming she's gonna do 2 more trials. Maybe she'll eventually figure out this riddle. And then I guess she's gonna give up Tamlin and go for Rhysand in this one, probably, at the end. I don't know, man. This book series sucks. I really don't get it. Alright, I'll check in with you at the end of this book. Let's go! Y'all like this book? Like, you genuinely like this book? I'm in utter shock and despair over the ending of acotar. It was just as bad as I thought it would be, and let's get into it. I am very excited. I am very excited that I predicted correctly and that feyre became high fae. Did I call that or did I call that? I don't know if I said it in the video, but I did predict it when I was doing our Zoom book club with my friends, because I predicted that the plot is going to be essentially all the same things as Throne of Glass, including that she, like, is human, but, like, we find out that she is fae, or she, like, turns into fae. And that's exactly what happened. And it makes no sense. How did she become a fairy? I don't know. She just suddenly is. She died, and then they were like, oh, we saved you. It was the only way that we could save you. Iconic. That whole ending scene, utterly bizarre. Also, the fact that the other trials were, like, picking lentils out of the fire, which the second that started, I was like, okay, Into the Woods, like, is it Cinderella? sarahjmaas is just writing all of the fairy tales into the story. It's so ridiculous. Pick to the ashes, simply set the ashes into the pots. Cinderella, there she is, and I was like, I absolutely know this is either gonna be Rhys's or Tamlin's room, and of course it was Rhys's. And then she's getting real close with Rhys. We have this weird new tattoo thing that binds her to him. Unconsensual tattoo. I like how she's immediately like, I don't like this ink, get it off, and he's like, too bad. But then she starts talking to it. Oh my god. Which, yet again, another thing stolen from the other book. Feyre and Aelin both have tattoos given to them by their man. I'm really sad the worm didn't make a comeback. That was really honestly disappointing. I like that she's just, like, sort of making out with everybody. We love that. Love and support this girl. But at the same time, I don't understand why she thinks she's still in love with Tamlin. Tamlin sucks. Can we drop him? Like, I know... I just don't want it anymore. Can we just drop him? I hate this book so much. I will be giving it a 1-star review because I think it's trash. But it's fun trash. I liked it because it was bad. It doesn't think it's bad, but it was bad. The ending when she finally figures out the riddle, very funny. The ending trial when they're trying to have her read, but she doesn't know how to read. Like, Leah Michelle who, I need to see a live action adaptation, which I know is happening. I think Leah Michelle should be Feyre. What do you guys think? Oh, I hate this book series so much. We end with her and Tamlin being together, super great. And Rhysand is just sort of there, third wheeling on the side. Love to see it. I'm very excited for the next book. I will be starting it immediately. And I know it gets spicier from here on out, so I don't think I'm going to be enjoying that. And we'll see how that goes. Let me know in the comments if there's any moments that you want me to record my reaction for. I will try my very best to do that. I'm listening to the audiobooks, so if you could give me the timestamps for the audiobooks, that would be super helpful. I'm sort of surprised that I want to read the next one, but I do. I want to see how she ends up with Rhys. I'm also really confused about when Nesta gets involved, and also confused about what this cave scene is that I keep seeing everywhere. Yeah. And now Rhysand has wings. Okay. And the masks came off. Okay. And I thought the book was pretty bad all the way straight through. Nothing made sense. And it was bad. 1 star. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye!